Well, welcome to part 2 of our 3-part series on the future of GIS. So this is the second of our Geospatial-Next talks for 2022. Happy New Year to you. We're going to talk in this one, part 2, about today. So I think to summarize today, I would say we're now beginning to talk about the importance of location. Location is sort of front and center to what a lot of things that we're focused on. We've heard terminology like location intelligence, location analytics. They've suddenly popped into our vernacular. So location is a word that we're using ever more. I'm going to say that it's really us moving from atoms to bits. And I'll extend this. This is really very much at the foundation of what I believe is the future of the industry, what's at the heart of the Geospatial-Next conversation. But we're taking the real world and we're digitizing it. And we're creating in a computer system what we see out of our windows, what we walk around indoors, what we see underground. And that's our journey. And that's where I think we are today and we're moving towards as we move forward. So here is that journey. This is repetition of some of the things I've mentioned as I started out talking about Geospatial 2.0 and this whole term Geospatial-Next, which really is, like I've mentioned before, a replacement of that 2.0 number. We don't need a number, we just need the word next. We've now got miniaturized sensors. That's impacted how we collect data. So not only are we now sending many satellites up into space, we've got aerial, we've got drones, we've got terrestrial on the ground, we've got indoor, we've got below ground. We've got sensors now that are small, so we can actually put them on the back of vehicles, put them into mini satellites, and they're collecting incredible amounts of data of ever greater accuracy. So the data collection game has changed dramatically. We've also got advanced processing and analytics through artificial intelligence, machine learning. Now there's somewhat of an overstatement in that because they are really just really advanced algorithms, but they do provide us the ability now to take all that data we're collecting and process and analyze it. So we're now moving into a place where we're in the journey of problem discovery and providing new and innovative solutions built on top of this new data and technology. But it's not only technological innovation that we're moving forward with, but it's also business innovation. A lot of folks confuse innovation with just technology, but without the business innovation, those technologies often don't take off. So we have to have both, and we're beginning to see the emergence of that. So really there's our journey. So in terms of the value proposition, I did in the previous video show some examples of what we're talking about here. Let me do the same in here. We can call them use cases, but I think illustrations are what we're talking about. 3D is becoming ever bigger of a deal. We've got LiDAR, we can collect data with that. We've got images and image processing where we can generate 3D. There's lots of new ways that we can recreate our world in 3D. You're looking at the screen there as vector data. We could see this as a mesh, or we could see the actual imagery overlaid on top of these buildings. So we're really recreating a digital reality, and that's ongoing. Let's also add real-time data to that. There's a good animation of what we're talking about here. We can actually watch things moving and changing in real time. We can see traffic movement. We can see the state of a building. We can see the state of a particular asset in real time and react to that based on the intelligence that's being sent back via IoT, for example. I'll point at 𝐼Sci. I've had some recent conversation with 𝐼Sci. These guys are doing things. They're basically a satellite company that are working with SAR, so that's radar. And they're doing some really interesting work around, not just technologically, but from a business perspective as well. I point at one particular area. They're doing flood monitoring, but it's flood monitoring in a very, very sophisticated way. Not only are they taking their data, their radar data, but they're combining that with other data sets and then coming out with data which gives a sense of predictive pieces, depths, the things that have been really, really challenging for us to find out historically. These guys are starting to do that type of work, and the outputs that they're producing are very different. They are basically satisfying what the client needs. So they're producing vector output, raster outputs. They're even outputting data in traditional spreadsheets, because lots of their customers like to see things in Excel, for example. So they're very flexible in how they're outputting the actual results from this data aggregation and processing and analysis exercise they do. Another group that I know well are Bentir. They're very focused on situational awareness, but I put their modern situational awareness. There are traditional ways that we've done situational awareness, how we've communicated what's actually happening in the field, but there's a modern way that takes advantage of all these advances in data and technology, which allows us to conduct situational awareness in near real time and real time, and a multitude of other ways. So Bentir are one of the companies that really are connected to, they're very much business innovators as much as they are technology innovators. They're very connected to customers. They're trying to understand where the customers are today and where they'd like to get to when it comes to situational awareness. So again, very innovative. Query were a group. They're based in Canada, I believe. I had some interesting conversations with them, but I really loved the idea that they had to actually connect, in their case, actually ArcGIS to Alexa and some of these other systems that you can speak to. So they're now using voice to actually get an output from a GIS. So yeah, it's not a map. I haven't mentioned that, but again, the outputs are very not map based. Very flexible outputs. In their case, it's based on speaking to Alexa. What time does our local pool close? Alexa knows where you live, goes out and finds where that pool is, and then reports back using public data that time of closure. So amazing things I think are going to happen just with voice. This is another example. If you read this one, it's an emergency alert. We're seeing more of these. Flash flood warning in this area until a certain time. So we're now beginning to know where folks are and send automatic alerts to people based on events that are happening on the ground. That could be, in this case, a flooding event. We might have sensors on the ground that are picking up a flooding event. We've triggered a warning to those that are in that immediate area to warn them that something's happening. So again, this is a text-based alert. Another wonderful use of location or location technology. I'll put one more out there, and this is kind of more, this is a bigger area that we won't cover. Actually, it's not really an area I cover a lot in Spatial-Next, but this proximity-based push notifications. There's a lot going in the world of, for example, retail, where we know where a consumer is. We know they're driving up to Starbucks, for example, and there's push notifications that can go to that phone to tell that person, did you know something about an offer that Starbucks got at that particular location, or something that's happening nearby. So we've got the intelligence to know where people are and send them information that we may not want to receive all the time, but the point of it is we're using location again to find where people are and send them push information to their smartphones, for example, on information around them. So I would say the industry, if I summarize, is an emerging mainstream industry which is characterized by multidimensional dynamic and static location data. So you'll see there I've got a database. A lot of this data ends up in databases, but it's also streaming data as well, which is on the right hand side there. So quite different, and that's based on the advances that we're seeing thanks to sensors and IoT, AI and machine learning. We're now moving to enterprise solutions. So the challenges that we faced in the past of moving out of the department and into the enterprise, we're now beginning to tackle some of those challenges. This is one of the things I actually work on in my job at Critigen, is how do we broaden the use of this technology across the organization. So I think we're now moving into that crossing the chasm enterprise type solution. And as I just highlighted in those use cases a moment ago, we're really less focused on the map. The map remains important. That's certainly not going away, and we'll keep advancing that. But we're really focused on the most appropriate output based on the problem. So instead of starting with the map and thinking what we can solve with a map, we're really focused on the problem and what that solution looks like and the best medium to communicate that. Maybe it's voice, maybe it's text, maybe it's a map, maybe it's something else. But we're now much more flexible in how we actually present the information and the answers to those questions. So the results. extending the value of the map. I mentioned that. It's not going away. We're now moving beyond the map. So the thought process is what's the most appropriate output. We're now being very innovative. There's new innovative uses of the technology. And I think the biggest thing is integrating location data intelligence into business workflows. And one of the areas that, again, is my world is spatial integration. So can we bring geospatial technology data into existing business workflows? And spatial integration is really talking through the use of SAP and Salesforce and some of these large business systems. How do we actually bring location data and intelligence into those systems to improve, enable, extend those workflows? So lots more to come there, but I think that's the results of where we are today. I think the biggest challenge is widening the understanding of geospatial data and its value. We still look backwards at the old days and talk maps. We lead with maps too often. There's still not a good understanding of what location means, the value to a business, the value to us as a society. So we have to paint the picture of the value both of the data and the intelligence that can be gleaned from that data. And again, that's our geospatial GIS world. So I would say, in closing, that's really the focus of Geospatial-Next. It's really, that's what we're looking to talk about and to widen that conversation about the value of location. And I plan to this year, just a sort of a little teaser, to involve other folks in this conversation. Those that see this, those that can actually paint that picture, those people that are working to actually advance the conversation will be part of this conversation. So I'm Matt Sheehan. You can reach me at matt.sheehan@𝐷IGIN.com or 𝐔𝐚𝐥 in social media. Always welcome your feedback, your thoughts on these things. There's one more video to go where we'll talk about GIS tomorrow. Thanks for watching.